Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of the Busy Business Owner's Guide to Marketing. Today, we're getting practical with a case study I call How an Overwhelmed SME Doubled Leads by Firing Themselves as CMO. Now, I see this constantly with founders. You're the absolute expert in your field, but you're also wearing the Chief Marketing Officer hat. What you might find is that marketing becomes an afterthought, right? A social media post when you have a spare 10 minutes, an email blast when you remember. It leads to that inconsistent feast or famine cycle of leads. Stick with me, because today I'm sharing the real story of a business that broke that cycle and the exact steps they took to do it. So let's meet our case study. We'll call them Innovate Tech, a B2B software firm run by a founder named Alex. Now, Alex is a brilliant engineer, but marketing just wasn't their natural zone. This might sound familiar to some of you. When I looked at their before state, I saw what you might expect. Social media posts were sporadic at best, and their website was really just a static, outdated brochure. There was no clear strategy to actually generate leads. Marketing was totally reactive, a task given to whoever had a spare hour. This is a classic recipe for that feast or famine cycle of leads. So for Alex, this wasn't a gradual realization. It was a specific tipping point. They lost a major deal, a deal they should have won, to a competitor. And the feedback was that the competitor simply had a more professional and trustworthy online presence. What I often see is an event like this forces an honest look in the mirror. It brings on that feeling of burnout and the sudden stark realization that your time is infinitely more valuable when you're focused on your actual genius zone, building your product or closing sales, not struggling with marketing tasks you honestly dislike and aren't getting results from. So, what does firing yourself as CMO actually look like in practice? It doesn't mean you have to go out and hire a full-time six-figure executive. For most SMEs, that's just not the right first step. Alex weighed the options many founders face: bringing on a junior marketing hire who needs significant direction, engaging a full-service agency, which can be a huge expense, or finding a specialized fractional CMO. What I find works so well in this scenario is the fractional route. This gave Alex access to top-tier strategy and a clear roadmap, but for a fraction of the cost and commitment of a full-time hire. So, once Alex had that expert help, the approach in the first 90 days wasn't some complex multi-channel overhaul. What I find works best is to get ruthlessly simple. We started with a quick audit, just to get crystal clear on their ideal customer profile. Who are we actually trying to reach? Once you know that, you can choose the one channel where they spend their time. For Innovate Tech, that was LinkedIn. The whole goal was to build a simple, repeatable system to generate valuable content and capture interest on that single platform. It's all about building one solid foundation before you even think about building the rest of the house. So, what happened next? This is the part I love sharing. Within just 6 months, Innovate Tech had doubled their monthly qualified leads. And the best part is, there was no secret trick. What I find is that the most powerful growth lever is often just good old-fashioned consistency. We built a steady drumbeat of targeted content on LinkedIn, all speaking directly to their ideal customer, and paired it with a single, valuable lead magnet, a downloadable guide. That simple, repeatable system created a predictable pipeline. And beyond the numbers, Alex's stress went way down, and the company's brand credibility soared. So, if we boil Innovate Tech's story down, what are the actionable takeaways for you? I see 3 clear ones. First, get honest about your genius zone. What I often have clients do is calculate the opportunity cost of spending time on tasks they aren't great at. It's often a real eye-opener. Second, remember that expert help doesn't have to mean a full-time hire. You might find that fractional or freelance support is the perfect game changer for getting momentum. And third, what I see time and again is that a simple, focused, and consistent marketing plan is far more effective than a complex one that's only executed sporadically. So, when we look back at Innovate Tech's journey, what I find is the core lesson is both simple and powerful. You might find that strategically letting go of that marketing hat isn't admitting defeat. It's often the single most important decision for unlocking growth. It lets you focus your genius where it truly matters. Thank you so much for walking through this case study with me today. Now that you have a system for getting people interested, the big question becomes, where do you send them? Next week, we'll answer that in episode 14, The Anatomy of a High-Converting Landing Page. Thanks for listening. If you find this information useful, we would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe this channel to help others find us. If there are subjects you would like covered, please add in the comments section, and we will include it in future episodes.